Does this seem familiar to you? You open up the old Blender device, you've got your reference images, and you start extruding and edge cutting, and there's hair for some reason, but no matter how hard you try, the end result just doesn't look like what you wanted? Well, now you can! Introducing
Understanding the fundamental elements of an object.
with
Understanding the fundamental elements of an object.
you will be able to create those strong base shapes that every good model needs, which you can then refine either with reference images or more.
Understanding the fundamental elements of an object.
Okay, but seriously, I wanted to talk about this aspect of 3D modeling that I feel sometimes gets a little bit lost. We all love a photographic reference, and that is important, don't get me wrong. And we all sure do love our photographic projections, but let's be real. Those tend to not be as effective the moment you're modeling something that isn't essentially just a cube or a series of cubes. No. If you want to model things, especially new things, fictional things, you're gonna have to acquire a skill that every visual artist eventually needs. The ability to learn how do things work. Unless, of course, you're like me, you have Aphantasia, the visual library is a lie, and understanding how do things work is the only way of doing art in any capacity. Anyways, I'm here to tell you that the earlier you learn this skill, the easier a time you will have with 3D modeling. Let's say, for instance, completely randomly, and with no ulterior motive, that you want to model a low-poly shotgun. So you pull up your reference image. No, don't. Not yet. The first thing you do is you go to YouTube and you pull up one of those informative videos about how a shotgun actually works. But I'm just modeling a shotgun. I just don't need to work out. Trust me. Okay, this time I turn my microphone on. We're gonna build a shotgun from scratch. Now, we learned that a shotgun is basically just tubes, just like the internet. So let's start by making a tube, bringing it down. There we go. And then duplicating it. I'll make the second tube a little shorter because that's generally how they are. Then we can bring those in. And that is our magazine tube and our barrel. Now the next step is me not being able to use Blender. Next step is a block that'll kind of serve as our stand-in for the firing mechanism. So let's bring that in. And that needs to be about 2 to 2.5 shells long. So I'm going to make it about this long. And that's just me eyeballing it from the size of the tube. There we go. We are going to need something like a trigger, and for now we're just going to mark that up with a box like this. And we are going to need a grip. There we go. And then we can just move that into roughly the right position. Maybe even a little more like this. There we go. Then we need a pump grip. And I am eyeballing the actual distance here, but I'd say it is about 1 to 1.5 shells in length, which roughly fits. And there we go. And the nice thing is, if you squint, I actually want you to squint, it almost looks like a shotgun. And if you're really like, if you really just need something to like be in your game, you can use this, right? This would already do. But of course it is, at this point, just a series of blocks. So Let's make these two a little bit shorter, I think, just for... There we go. So how do we detail this with the techniques that we have? Well, for starters, we know that at the end of this tube, there is meant to be a cap with a spring attached to it. So we can just... There we go. Now we have a cap at the end of this. And a real shotgun, you would be able to screw that in. And of course, well, it'd probably help if we had like an actual hole in our barrel. So let's bring that in. There we go. And you're going to be able to tell that if you just look at it, it looks very unstable in the front. So let us add a little stabilizer kind of structural element right there, and we can just select these edges, just bevel them. There we go. Actually, I want this to be a little bit higher and a little bit smaller. There we go. And then we can just take this, raise it up, and that gives it a little bit more structure. Next thing, we're going to shape the grip, the pump grip a little bit. And I'm just going to do that by beveling this, and then by beveling these a little bit. There we go, and then I'm going to make a loop cut here, and a loop cut, say, there. I'm just going to pull these faces down a little bit, resulting in this little foregrip sort of deal. There we go. And then maybe we can just, I don't know if that won't do shit. We just bring this in and raise it a little bit, gives it a little bit the illusion of depth there. There we go. Now, next thing, we know from the video that in order for the pump grip to even work, it needs to be connected to our firing mechanism, right? Because it is what actually moves all the internals before and after you fire. Well, not all of them, but you know. So, we can take another rod, bring that all the way down, like this, and then we bring it down to like here. There we go, we go back into editing mode, we select it all, we bring it out. There we go. Then we can take this side and we can just hide that in the grip itself. And we can take the other side. And this I want to be brought in just about there. And the reasoning for that is, you can then mirror it. Boop. Now it's on both sides. Now the reason for that is, that if we now take this and we parent it to the grip and remove the grip all the way back, we can see if the rods kind of poke through the end. If they poke through the end, that means either your pump grip is too far away from the receiver, or your receiver is just too short. In this case, we're looking fine. This is a good distance. Now, there are, of course, multiple ways of doing this. Specifically, I chose these two rods now, but you can also do like a big, like you could, no, can't do that because this is an N-gon. But you could, for instance, do something like bring in a plane, move that down, move that to here, bring that in, bring that out, this one, goes in here. This one goes right up against there. And we bring it in a little bit more. And then we put on a modifier, namely a solidify. And we give that a little bit of... that was a little bit too much depth, I would argue. We give it a little bit of depth, and that's like the same idea. Works just as well. Turn that to the handle, and yeah, that's still doesn't really matter how you end up doing it. I think I'm gonna duplicate this and just, there we go. Makes it look a little bit more stable. And you can kind of, if you ignore this half of it, this looks good. This looks almost like a shotgun at this point. But let's continue work on this. Now for the receiver. We have a few things we can do here. Firstly, I'm gonna bevel this out a little bit. We have beveled the receiver a little bit. Now we know that there are two holes in the receiver from the video. One hole will be down here, and that is the hole where the cartridges, or the shells rather, get inserted into the gun. So I'm just gonna very simply just imply that. You know, in games that are a little bit more, have a little bit more stuff going for them visually, they will often have the little flap down here as like a physics object that actually flaps around when it moves, stuff like that. We're not going to bother with that. This will be enough for our purposes. But then again, you can always expand on your models. You can always make them more detailed using the same technique. The second hole we know is up here, and I'm going to make another edge cut like this, and then one down the middle like that. Extrude, and then scale in all directions except for Y. Now this doesn't look great, but we can just take this and adjust it a little bit. And there we go. Again, I am simplifying this. There will not be a moving bolt inside of the receiver for me. But if you want some really advanced animations, then you will need that. For me, it's fine because the gun, you know, the gun, whenever it fires, moves about, bang, and then a shell spawns and flies out. And you won't be able to tell that there's nothing moving inside unless you pay really, really close attention to it. And this is low poly, so we're trying to like keep our polygon count low, and this is one of the things that we can do to do that. Now this already, again, if we take off the bits that aren't done yet, we're getting there. This looks like something. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to work from here to like build the pistol grip. No, okay. Let's see, we want the normals, there we go, and then the Y there. Bring that down, rotate it, scale on the Y. And we already fucked up the centering, there we go. There we go, bring that down, scale down on the Y. And even now we can just, even if we just do this, there's already looks pretty good. I do, however, want to bring this out, and I'm gonna do some There we go. No. Bring these back. No proportional editing for this, please. So just ever so slightly bring these back. There we go, that looks decent. We could almost leave it like this. The bottom, of course, needs a little bit of work. We can just... No. Let's bring it out, close it off. There we go. Usually, you can put a buttstock on this, of course. I'm going to leave it as a pistol grip. Let's do proportional editing again. Bring that in a little bit. There we go. I'm also going to do this and then just bring these in. There we go. Now we have the typical like pistol grip thingy. We'll set that to auto smooth. I think I'm gonna have a line running down the middle and just bring these out just a tiny bit. There we go. Maybe a tiny bit more. And maybe bring these back. No, not that one. This one. No? No, it's these. And these. And we just bring them back ever so slightly. There we go. I think that's all right. And now suddenly you have something, right? This looks promising. So let's replace the trigger. Get rid of that. And we're just going to do a plane. Bring that in. Make that nice and thin. Bring it down here. Bring it all the way down here. There we go. Can probably make it even thinner. There we go. Gonna do this, and we're just gonna deactivate this. Bring this in. Do the rough shape like this. No, not that one. And then we can bevel this. Bevel this. And then we can add a... Where is it? Solidify. There we go. Now we have a trigger guard. Albeit a very big one. So maybe let's... Yeah, let's pull back on that just a tiny bit. We can raise this up. There we go. And then we bring in... actually, we can probably just copy this one. Bring that in. Delete some faces here. Bring you up in there. Bring you up. Bring you in here. Nah, actually, if we just slim that down by quite a margin, and then maybe a little bit more at the tip. It's not perfect, but for our purposes, it'll do. So now we have a shotgun. Now, we're going to stop here, but that doesn't mean that you have to. You can take this all the way and build a photorealistic gun basically just using this technique. Of course, you're going to also have to learn more about what you're modeling. Just be glad you're not the Bungie employee who had to learn all about how buttholes work in order to create the sphincter doors for Halo 3. On that note, thanks for watching, And if you want to support me in the creation of my game Sanctuary Zero, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It means the world to me. Thank you.